Hi, this is Fernando Cruz with the Paternity Doctors, and welcome to your special report 7 of the most common mistakes people in need of paternity testing make and how to avoid them. So let's get started. Mistake number 1, performing a self or at home test. You see, many people choose this option because it appears to be cheap. However, there are many hidden costs. Things like testing the mother, that's going to cost you extra. Professional collection, that's also going to cost you extra, and in many cases you need to have a professional collector perform the DNA collection. Shipping via FedEx, that's also going to cost you extra, and guess what, you really should order it via FedEx because that way you can track your test results. Also, if you want your results in 3 to 5 business days, that's going to cost you extra. Otherwise, you're going to wait around weeks to get your test results. Now, what I did is I went to many of these websites and I started inputting all of this information into their shopping cart. And guess what? That cheap $80 or $100 actually turned out to be over $330. Not a huge value. Now, with the paternity doctors, however, all of these services and much more are included at no extra charge for less than the at-home test that you see advertised all over the internet. The next thing to keep in mind is that they are not legal. Now, in order to make them legal, you must have a third party who is not related and has no interest at all. And this person must receive the kits, they must observe the collection, and in many cases, they themselves will need to do the collection, and they must seal, document, and send all the test materials back to the lab. Now think about it, they have to do this accurately, and chances are they've never done that before. And guess what? There's no privacy, and it's also kind of embarrassing because you have to get someone that you kind of know. But who can you trust? I mean, it cannot be a family member because remember, they cannot be related. And it can't be your best friend because although they may not be related, they have an interest in the test exam. So again, it gets a little bit complicated. But with the paternity doctors, all of our tests are 100% legal and can be used in any court of law. And our collectors are experienced, friendly, and certified. The last reason for this mistake that is many times they're done wrong. And guess what? The fees to retest and to do these tests over again are huge. We've had people pay upwards of $500 in expenses because of mistakes that were made. Now, the bottom line is, at the paternity doctors, we do not get it wrong. Each of our collectors has an average of over 200 collections performed. And because of this, you can rest assured in knowing that the test will be 100% accurate. But what if a mistake was made during the collection process? I mean, we're not perfect, right? Well, guess what? We pay for it, not you. If we have to ever do a retest, and by the way, we've only had to do one in our entire history, we will do it at no extra charge to you. Frankly, as you can see, those at-home tests really aren't worth it, and they end up costing you a lot more money. Mistake number 2, using a non-accredited lab. This one is huge because at the very bare minimum, the lab you use must be AABB certified. Now, AABB stands for the American Association of Blood Banks. If they are not AABB certified, very simply put, do not use them. Now, the paternity doctor's lab is accredited by the AABB, which means that we have passed a rigorous review and inspection of our testing processes and laboratory to ensure that tests are being done accurately and thoroughly. Now, to keep our status, we also participate in proficiency tests and are re-inspected biannually. By the way, only an accredited DNA test is admissible in a court of law in the United States. But on top of the AABB, which is a great certification to have, look at the other accreditations and certifications that we've got. We are accredited with ISO 17025 and ISO 9001. Now, the ISO is the International Office for Standards, and it basically regulates our technical competence, as well as maintaining highest levels of technical and quality management in our labs. Do some research and you will see that the ISO certifications are one of the hardest to get in the world, and we don't only have one, we have two. The next is the College of American Pathologists, or the CAP. We are accredited through this CAP as well. We also have a membership and accreditation through the A2LA. Now, the A2LA is the American Association for Laboratory Accreditation. The interesting thing about the A2LA is that their regulations are even tougher than the ISO. And we also have, like I said, A2LA. Our materials, the swabs we use, the lancets we use, all of our equipment is sterile and validated as sterile by the FDA. We are FDA approved. All the materials we use is FDA approved. And why is this important? Well, it's important for you to ensure your safety and personal health. The next thing we're a member of that we have an accreditation through is the Clinical Laboratory of Improvement Amendments. Now, this was actually enacted by the Congress of the United States, and we are a member. We are also accredited through the ILAC, and this is the International Laboratory Accreditation Cooperation. What this shows you is that our lab is fully accredited not only in the United States, but also internationally. And finally, we are also accredited through the NATA. The NATA is the National Association of Testing Authorities. The bottom line, though, is regardless of where you go, we'd love to have your business, but if you decide to go somewhere else, make sure that at the very minimum, they are AABB accredited. And as you can see, the more accreditations and certifications the lab has, the better it is for you. Mistake number 3, using a general lab instead of a genetic testing lab. You see, not all labs are equal. The problem with labs that perform other types of tests is they take longer to perform DNA tests. They don't specialize in DNA tests, and they don't have all the accreditations I mentioned on the last page. The Paternity Doctor's Lab only does DNA testing. That's all we do. Now, let's say you had a heart problem or some other type of condition. Will you go to a general doctor or would you go to a specialist? I think the answer is obvious. You always go to the specialist. Not only are your results guaranteed to be accurate, but you'll also get the results in days instead of weeks. Mistake number 4, ordering a non-legal test. In order to save some money, some have chosen to do what's called a non-legal test. It's also known as an informational test. Now, this is almost always a mistake, and here's 3 reasons why. Number 1, because you never know when you'll need legal proof and documentation. We've had cases where people had to come back and get retested at much higher expense because they needed the legal proof. Number 2, because the price difference is so small, it's actually not worth it. Did you know that the difference between a non-legal and a legal is usually $10 to $20, maybe $30? It really isn't a big difference. And reason number 3, because the legal test offers you greater protection for about the same price. I mean, if you're going to pay right around the same price, wouldn't you want way more protection? Of course you would. Now, the reason why we do this is because we can provide you with an informational test if you want. But the truth is, you'll actually be saving very little money. There really is no big upside to performing a non-legal test. Now, if money is an issue, you may want to consider some of our other options. And those options are that we have payment plans available. And there are other discounts that may be available to you. Now, when you call us, please ask about these options. Mistake number 5, errors in paperwork. This is a big mistake. You see, whether you're doing a legal test or a non-legal test, paperwork is a must. There are many laws and regulations in place to protect you and the public from fraud, identity theft, and violations of privacy. Unless the paperwork is correctly filled out and filed, it will not only cause delays, but it will also end up costing you a lot more money. Everyone knows that filling out new paperwork is tough, especially if you've never done it before. That's why all of our collectors have an average of more than 200 DNA collections. They've collected and filled out all the paperwork many times before, so it's highly accurate. But once again, our promise to you, if there are any errors in the paperwork, not only will we fix them, but we will fix them at no charge to you. Mistake number 6, not thinking about the children involved. Many times, we as adults forget what it's like to be a child. And although the DNA collection process is painless, it can be a very scary thing for the child. And that's why with the paternity doctor, you will find that we immediately build trust with the child. We've also been trained to calm the fears of a child who may be worried as to what's going on, and we have proven methods that will put your child at ease. Mistake number 7, not taking all steps needed to avoid fraud. Let's face it, the world is full of people always looking to get over on the system, always trying to be sneaky and always trying to get away with something. You must make sure that the right people are getting tested, and you must make sure no one tampers with the collections. Not only do we ID everyone involved here at the Paternity Doctors, but we also take a picture of each member. We then print out the picture, and each picture must be signed. All signatures are verified as well. And to avoid tampering, we only use tamper-proof envelopes. And by the way, our tamper-proof envelopes are also FDA approved. And all the collection material, as well as assigning a random number to each sample to avoid any mistakes. Well, there you have it. If you have any questions at all, please call us at 770-289-0742. And don't forget to ask about our payment plans, discounts, and of course, we also have a mobile service where we go to you in the event that you cannot come to us. Thank you so much and have a great day.